With the upcoming movie and season 2 of Blue Lock, I want to share my thoughts in regards to how I feel about this manga series, alongside a few things from the anime, my praises, my criticisms that comes along with it, things that I would like to improve for season 2. Blue Lock is a manga series to me that defines what hype is. It's a series that I always come back to that makes me feel hype, kinda like Records of Ragnarok. Currently, it's my favorite sports manga, purely on its action. For anyone saying Slam Dunk is better, I'm currently halfway into reading it, and I can see why people would prefer it over Blue Lock. I'll discuss Slam Dunk in a different video if I want to. Oh, and by the way, my favorite sports anime is Inazuma 11. I'm not even joking. For anyone who's not read Blue Lock, I highly recommend it. Well, the anime did a good enough job, but there are obvious moments that I will point out later in the video. I first read Blue Lock during the pandemic. From the first chapter alone, I instantly got hooked on the idea of the egotistical way of playing soccer. Since a lot of sports manga and anime resort to teamwork, which in and of itself is not a bad thing, Haikyuu is a very good example of this. It just felt unique to the genre of sports altogether. The idea and philosophy of Blue Lock revolves around the idea of egoism, since the whole point is to be the very best striker in the world, pushing the idea of individuality and prioritizing one's own success and ambition above everyone else's. Basically a battle royale. A survival of the fittest mentality where the strong players get to move on while the weaker ones gets booted off, with each player proving how long they can last as an individual alone, honing their skills and abilities with football matches that decide who passes to the next stage, inevitably cultivating the best possible striker. The characters in Blue Lock emphasize the philosophy very well, with each different characters having their own personal ego attached to their own ambition. With Shigiri centered around his speed, with the desire of overcoming his injury, with the pursuit of being the fastest player in the field. Ito Shirin and his ambition to surpass his older brother, believing he is destined to be the greatest, with a confidence that borders on arrogance. Ryo's a good one, with his ego tied to the idea of proving himself without the help of his wealthy upbringing. Our protagonist, Isagi, revolves around his desire to becoming the best striker in the world. And of course, my favorite character, Baro, as his ego is one of the most pronounced in the series. His ego drives him to assert his authority and score goals in his own way, refusing to cooperate in team dynamics unless they serve his interests. I love, by the way, that he calls himself king. I just love the characters who have the skills that can back up their own arrogance and douchiness, and the amazing art style and artwork that comes along with it is just chef's kiss. With all that said, there are things in Blue Lock that can rub people the wrong way, and I can understand why. Some characters may be considered as one-dimensional, since many of their personality is based around their ego, practically only defined by a single trait or motivation, with there being slow development sometimes. But I think while some characters might seem one-dimensional, their single traits can be seen as their unique strengths, since a football manga typically would have a lot of characters. And with this specialization allows for a diverse team where each player brings something distinct to the field. And there are a few times where it reveals more about a character's backstory, revealing more depth to them, especially with the newer chapters. The plot being repetitive is understandable, because the constant cycle of matches with the constant philosophy of ego shoved into her face, introducing new and new characters to be just that one obstacle for Isagi, especially as the series goes on. Granted, it's a sports manga. As the competition goes on, it becomes more difficult, but it can be predictable. For anyone who has caught up with the manga, after Kaiser, you know there's going to be another stupidly strong player that will surprise our characters. And Isagi is saying it's impossible to beat, but by the end of it, he still beats them. I know that's kinda the point, as it's a journey to be the best, but can still be quite jarring in knowing the outcome of the match. With the Blue Lock anime, I think the big issues with it was obviously its animation. The ones that were animated really good was obviously the ones that were the most impactful moments, like final goals. But the CGI was really noticeable to me. And I know how difficult that must be, so I won't blame the animators for it. One that really affected me was Butcher's monster. It reminded me of Scream from Spider-Man. Oh, and this moment in the manga really got shafted by anime. I'm still disappointed about that one. I think a lot of people just want to see better animation in general, especially in running sequences or in dribbling. Because while the Butcher scene was good in the anime, that Butcher scene was just basically a PowerPoint. The pacing of the anime wasn't bad, I think where they left off was something I predicted at the start. And if the second season were to have 24 episodes, slight spoilers, skip ahead if you want to. If the second season were to have 24 episodes, I think it goes from the group training arc and then the under 20s match. And during the finale, they'll probably introduce a certain player. So that's basically my prediction. The title of the video is still valid. Despite having flaws, Blue Lock to me is still hype. I do love the sport, and I think you don't really need to be analytical to enjoy the story. To me, it's like a turn your brain off show and just enjoy how it plays out. I am caught up with the latest chapters, and so far I'm still enjoying what I'm reading, especially the progression with Kaiser. So far I'll continue to read it. It's a good progression story of becoming number one, but Inazuma 11 is still better.